Boom. We're live. YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. Instagram and Rammer. What is happening, y'all? We are on time today, too, believe it or not. Just got done doing MMA and did some kicks, did some punches, and it's good. Got a couple bruises. Look at that bicep vein popping right there. Woo! Anyways, we're going to start the discussion today with a little talk around lean bulking and foods to eat while lean bulking, and what lean bulking is, first of all. Would you like to start?
I'm going to let you go. Run away with this one.
All right. Well, at a very high level, lean bulking is kind of like it's a little bit of a arbitrary term. Basically, it's prioritizing building lean muscle tissue while not putting on excessive body fat. So if you're doing a dirty bulk, you're basically eating everything in sight, putting on as much weight as possible in the attempt and hopes that most of it, or at least a good portion of it, is in fact muscle. But you kind of are accepting of the fact that a lot of it's going to be fat as well because you're not really lean bulking. Lean bulking, on the other hand, is when you are trying to maximize lean muscle tissue gained while minimizing excess fat tissue gained, which is honestly a better path than the dirty bulking because you don't need to put on a ton of excess body fat in order to capitalize on a building phase, but you will need to put on some body fat because you need to be in a caloric surplus to capitalize on a building phase. And being in a caloric surplus brings with it some additional body fat. So, for instance, my maintenance intake is probably somewhere around 3,000 calories. A lean bulk style of building phase for me would be probably putting my calorie intake at around, I don't know, 3,200, maybe 3,400, somewhere within about 200 or 400 calories beyond a caloric beyond a caloric maintenance. That way, I'm getting in enough food to be in the caloric surplus, give my body the nutrients it needs to build more lean muscle tissue, make sure I'm getting in enough protein, enough fat for energy, and obviously minimal dietary carbs because I'm doing a ketogenic approach. A dirty bulk for me may be 5,000 or plus calories a day because that is quite a bit beyond my caloric maintenance intake. So I would definitely put on some muscle with that, but I would put on probably a lot of unnecessary body fat by being that much beyond my maintenance intake. So lean bulking is basically putting yourself in a caloric surplus, but not so much so that you put on excessive amounts of body fat. Quick little caveat here, and Chris will run away with it. A lot of people try to do a recomp in which they stay at maintenance and try to not take any extra body fat and basically swap their current body fat for muscle tissue. You can do this. You can, in fact, build muscle and lose fat at the same time, but you're not really going to optimize for either. So I always recommend having a defined building phase and a defined cutting phase so that you're getting the best of that phase, as opposed to trying to do both at the same time and not really capitalize and maximize the potential for one or the other.
And what kind of foods do you want to eat in a lean bulking phase?
But you about to drop some knowledge there.
I can drop some knowledge about food.
As far as
he
the
doesn't
foods,
want me to drop any knowledge. Go for it.
Go ahead, baby.
Go
drop some knowledge, babe. No. Drop some knowledge.
If it were me, I would just focus on whole foods, making sure to get plenty. You're still going to be probably, maybe, possibly counting your macros. Specifically, if you want to do like a lean bulk, you're probably going to count your calories a lot more than if you're just going to be doing like a major surplus or something like that. But I think a lot of the really clean meat sources, clean vegetables, things like that. You don't want to do a lot of processed foods. You don't want to, in general, you don't want to do a lot of processed foods. But a lot of people are like, I'm bulking, I'm in a surplus, I can eat whatever the heck I want. And that means like, even like keto pizza or whatever every single night. Like that's not optimal. That's not exactly what you want to do. You want to be eating high quality food because that is going to have better absorption. Your body is going to put it to use much more easily and better. The whole point of a bulk is to build that lean muscle tissue. So you want to be eating what's going to fuel your body and build the muscle. So don't eat a bunch of junk. You want to eat clean, good, whole foods.
Yeah. And a little bit to kind of, spin off of what she said there. A lot of people, it just really depends on the type of diet you're following. So if you're eating a ketogenic diet like we are, I'm still going to eat a lot of fatty foods while in a lean bulking phase. I'm still going to eat a lot of quality protein while in a lean bulking phase. I don't know why I do this. What does that even mean? Like quotations? Lean bulking phase. But basically, you want to eat foods that you would normally eat, but ideally they're always coming from quality sources. And that's true whether you're in a building phase or in a cutting phase. Like I don't eat crap during the building phase and super clean during the cutting phase. I eat pretty consistently clean year round because I feel better that way. So the types of foods.
You might have more like variety in a bulk, but it doesn't mean you're going to eat junk in a bulk.
Yeah, the types of foods don't really change when you're in a building phase. The quantity of that food changes in a building phase because you're eating more to put yourself in that caloric surplus. So that's that. Yeah, it's not too active on YouTube and Facebook. Hello, YouTube. What's up?
Yo.
But yeah, throw some questions our way. Throw some questions. We got our baby check-in tomorrow.
We do. We have a prenatal appointment.
From Fatty to Natty Bodybuild. What's up, man? Shout out to him right there. Just joined. He's a super impressive guy. Follow him for sure. He has an amazing transformation. He just started a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is the same as your Instagram name, right? From Fatty to Natty. But yeah, everybody go check him out for sure.
Nisha Berry.
What's up, Nisha? Loves it.
Hey, buddies and baby Savage.
How you doing, Nisha?
She's looking adorable these days. If you aren't following Nisha at Nisha Loves It, you should go do that. She's also having a little one.
She is.
Yep. 3,200 calories would be a feast.
Tailored Keto Health. What's going on? How are you? Who said it would be a feast? What does that one say?
I like to do lean proteins with backfill fats with various sources, easier to control the energy content.
Yeah, if you're doing, that's a good point. So if you're getting like super fatty cuts of steak, like ribeyes, for instance, or beef ribs or something like that, it's much harder to quantify how much of that is protein versus how much is fat. So if you're really trying to dial in the macros, getting leaner sources of protein like a venison or like a bison, and then adding additional fat to that you're measuring out is much better from an accuracy standpoint and a precision standpoint. I like the way my body feels with fattier cuts of meat in general, but if I'm really trying to reach a specific goal and I'm trying to really track in macros, then I'll do that. However, if I'm getting my ribeyes, for instance, from a local reliable source and they're already consistent, then that's a little bit better. But if you're going to like Walmart one day to grab your ribeyes and Kroger the next day to grab your ribeyes and then the local butcher the next day to grab your ribeyes, one may have a super thick fat cap and one may have no fat cap at all. So that definitely throws a couple variables in the mix.
Yeah, and it's going to be also variety because, depends on what you're going to do, because I don't love fat on my meat. Unless it's ground, then I usually choose a leaner meat just because that's what I prefer. But yeah.
What do you think of cream cheese, butter, heavy cream, etc.? I'm all for it.
Yeah, we do love it. You just don't want to overdo any of those.
Yeah, and you want to all get them from good quality sources. Like you can get grass finished butter,
organic.
Yeah. So I mean, that's all super good as long as you're getting it from good sources. Yeah. How much weight in a lean bulk should I aim to gain per week? So once you've reached your maintenance and your weight's holding steady, and then you transition to a slight caloric surplus of 200 to 400 calories, for instance, I probably would not want to see. I mean, you're not going to see a crazy gain, especially if you're a seasoned lifter. If you're like a pretty early on in your lifting endeavors, you may put on muscle like super quick and put on 10, 15 pounds, 20 pounds in a year. But if you've been training for 5 years plus, 10 years plus, especially, you're not going to put on a ton of weight year after year after year. I mean, I'm pretty much 175 to 180, depending on how clean my bulk is. And I don't really deviate too much from that, but my composition improves every single year. a good rule of thumb is to always be within about, from a competitive bodybuilding standpoint, within about 15 to 20 pounds of your stage weight. There's not really any need to get beyond that. So if you're competing at 150, for instance, and you get up to 165, then, you can put yourself in a little bit of a caloric surplus. But if you start getting up on, 120 or 170, you're probably putting on a little bit of unnecessary body fat at that point. But I mean, honestly, look at your training stats. If your lifts are continually going up, then you're obviously building muscle.
All right. Do you pee a lot because you drink a lot, or does that taper off eventually? I don't know if that's a question in general.
I think when people first start keto, they pee a ton, and then that starts to level out.
Not keto. They said because you drink a lot.
I don't pee too much. I'm full of piss and vinegar, but I don't pee too much.
How much do you drink of water a day?
Probably a good gallon, maybe a gallon and a half.
Yeah, and then he drinks like 2 coffees, maybe a pre-workout, maybe a Zevia.
Yeah.
But I drink about a gallon of water a day and 1 coffee, and I pee a lot more these days because I have a little one that likes to jump on my bladder. But other than that, I don't feel like I pee too much. Neither one of us like overly go. And I think it also is like a balance of electrolytes with your water as well. So if you're peeing a ton, maybe you're not holding on to enough water because you're not balancing it out with electrolytes. But I think it also depends on who you are and how your body processes things, how much water you need. Like we're also sweating in our workouts and things like that. So are you sweating out anything? So on and so forth.
Your audio hadn't been on this whole time?
Oh, no. I've just been holding this thing. Stupid.
Jay Shane, the Keto Road, just asked a question. How much protein per pound of body weight when lean bulking? I would say 1.5 grams of protein per pounds of lean mass should be totally fine. So my lean mass is like
lean mass, not total body weight.
Yeah. So my lean mass is like 150. So I mean, I don't really ever go beyond 200 grams of protein. That's more than enough for me.
All that baby bump going on. Yep, there's a big bump there.
Bump.
Good to see you guys. Good to see everyone else on here.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
The P question was in general. Yeah. General. I don't think either one of us really pee a whole lot, but I don't know what to compare it to.
Can I see your calculator on your phone? I'm gonna do some quick math.
Sure. But I think that you could just clear that. I think that the majority of people will acclimate themselves to drinking more. You might begin like if you're going from like half a gallon a day to a gallon a day because you feel you need to increase your water. Again, 1, look at your electrolytes, but 2, you probably are going to pee a little bit more in the beginning. So just get through that first week and then your body will acclimate to drinking more water.
So to kind of go a little deeper into Jonathan's question there, my lean mass is 150 pounds. If I do 1.5 grams per pound of lean mass, that would put me at 225 grams of protein. That would be on the higher end of what I would ever need to consume in a building phase. I compete at around 160. So if I'm at 175 now, I am right there. Actually, I'm 177 now. So I'm 17 pounds over my stage weight, which is kind of right there within that striking range that I would recommend being in, between 15 and 20 pounds of stage weight. 25 pounds on the higher end. You can still do that in a healthy, sustainable manner with a cut. But yeah, no need to go beyond 1.5 grams protein per pound lean mass. And I mean, if I was to consume 300 grams of protein, there would be no benefit to it. Like I would feel poorly. My knees would start hurting.
Feeding protein, eating a lot of lean meats, which I enjoy lean meats, but I usually use some sort of fat to like make it flavorful. But
you enjoy lean meats when you're not in such a surplus that it becomes a chore to eat that much protein.
Right. That's exactly what I mean. Like I'm not trying to eat egg whites and things like that. I just enjoy lean meats because I don't like to eat the chewiness of fat meat.
Will cardio ruin gains while lean bulking?
If I say yes, will you kill me, Jonathan? No, I'm just kidding.
It won't ruin lean gains, but here's the thing about cardio. You have caloric expenditure obviously is happening when you're doing cardio. So if your goal in a lean building phase is to be in a caloric surplus, if you're doing excessive amounts of cardio, it makes it harder to be in a net energy positive surplus standpoint. Also, if you're doing a ton of cardio, like 7 days a week of cardio in a surplus, when you transition into a deficit, you're not going to have near as much room to add more cardio because you're already doing 7 days a week of cardio. So I like to treat cardio as like a minimum viable dose, so to speak, when in a building phase. You want to have enough cardiovascular health that your resistance training is, benefiting from it, but you don't want to be doing so much cardio training that it hinders your recovery, hinders your resistance training, and makes it nearly impossible to be in a net caloric surplus.
Keto Break is watching us.
That's kind of trippy. Ellen watching us?
Yeah, it must be Ellen. Hi,
Ellen. No, I'm just asking to keep the education flowing. I'm not the competing and mass expert in the room. What you talking about, Jay Shane? You got some biceps on you. Jay Shane's got his bicep pose with his little side pose there. He's got his little profile picture. He has his hat on backwards, it looks like. He's got his arms crossed. He uses his hand to push up his bicep a little bit more and make it look bigger than it really is.
Oh, man. All right. Do we have any other questions? We got, a little bit more time we have on here if we want.
Yeah, we need some more questions, y'all.
Here we go. All right. Heard 100 grams of protein minimum for women, even if lean and petite. Do you agree with this minimum?
It just depends. There's too many variables. Like I was just on a podcast today with a woman that is, she was diagnosed with brain cancer. She had brain cancer and she only weighs like 115 pounds. And she was on a much lower protein protocol to minimize tumor growth in that brain tumor. But that's obviously not
it's a very rare situation. I love to see my female clients over 100 grams of protein. Like they say, for someone who's pregnant, for instance, they say to eat between, what did they say? 80 and 100. Over 80 grams of protein. And to me, if you are only eating 80 grams of protein and you're not in a cut, you're not getting enough protein. Your body needs protein to thrive and survive. So I like to see my female clients 100 grams of protein or more. But when you go into a cutting phase, you might be lower on protein for a short period of time. Again, it's a short period of time. It's very strategic. You're not trying to screw your body up. But if you're consistently eating less than 100 grams of protein or 80 grams of protein or whatever, you probably need to increase that. I mean, it would be definitely a smart choice for you to increase that. So I think that's a good baseline for the majority of people. Now that was a very strict situation.
Yeah, most people don't have brain cancer.
Right. And some people do have other issues, autoimmune disorders, diseases, which can actually be aggravated by some proteins. So maybe some people need to be a little bit lower, but the majority of people are going to need a little bit higher protein.
Also, a good rule of thumb with protein is to eat as much protein as you possibly can with your body responding well to it. There is a point of diminishing returns of protein. If you're 115 pounds and you're eating 300 grams of protein a day, you're not going to feel optimal. You're just not, especially if you're doing a ketogenic approach and your dietary fat intake is suffering. So there's protein is great. You should eat as much of it as you can with a positive effect. Once you go beyond that, there's a point of diminishing return.
So if you are, example, 90 pounds, then just get to 100. I would say this is very, very generalized. I don't know what individual we're talking about specifically, but if you're an adult female and you weigh 90 pounds and you're not very, very petite or very short, and you're weighing 90 pounds, you probably need to increase calories in general. So yes, increase your protein. Yes, increase your fats.
More than 100 grams.
Yes, more than 100 grams, likely because you're underweight. But again, I'm not judging anyone, and I don't know these certain situations, but if you were talking about you're 5'5" or even 5 foot and you're weighing 90 pounds, you could probably afford to increase the protein, increase the fats, try to get a little bit more lean muscle mass on you, and even maybe a little bit more body fat as well.
Jay Shane says he's not wrong. Stephanie says, if I eat less than 100 grams of protein, I feel hungry. Yeah, I have no idea what your other macros are like. Like if your fat is high, if your fat is low, if your carbs are high, if your carbs are low. But yeah, I mean, if you can tolerate more than 100 grams of protein and ideally more dietary fat, then by all means do so.
Maybe one day I will do a transformation bodybuilding ketogenic approach. You should.
You should, man. I'll convince you to when you do that podcast with me.
I'm weighing 103 pounds right now and eating 170 grams of protein. And they have a smile on their face.
Who's that?
Paula.
Nice.
Cali Girl Fitness.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
Same thing with like calories. Like a good rule of thumb on calories is to consume as many calories as you can without any adverse effects. Like if you're eating a ton of calories and you're putting on a bunch of body fat, that's obviously an adverse effect. But if you're eating more calories and your body's responding well to it, your metabolism's upregulating, your hormones are all stable, you have more energy to train harder. That's all good. That's all positive.
Optimal is operative word, hence why Ketogenic Girl calls her podcast now the Optimal Protein Podcast.
Yeah, we talked about that on the last podcast. She was on my show, I think. The optimal protein. Yeah, there's context is everything. Sometimes it makes sense to have high protein. Sometimes it makes sense to have lower protein. It doesn't ever really make sense to chronically have low protein unless you have some crazy extraneous solution or situation like the brain cancer or something like that.
We really don't like to blanket statement things because every person is so individualized. Their health is individualized, their activity level, their stress levels, their hormones, everything is so individual that we can't say, yes, you should eat over 100 grams of protein. That's why we say in general, for the average human, this or that. But that does not mean that we are talking specifically about you as an individual because we don't know your situation. It's why we do coaching. We try to get to know our clients. We try to understand what's going on in their lives, what kind of activities they're doing.
Speaking of coaching, Crystal just has a discount going down, right?
Yeah, I do. I have a discount going on right now.
What's the details on that?
So, actually, the reason I did this.
That was a great lead into a sales pitch right there.
It sure was.
I'm here all week, ladies and gentlemen.
But I was just talking to my friend Sunny the other day, and I was telling her that February every single year is my highest client month. And for me, I'm like, oh, that's great. But then I started to really try to think about it. Why is February the highest month? It's not January. It's not the beginning of the year. And I really believe that it is a lot of people start really hard and heavy and strong the 1st of January. And it might take them a few weeks to say I might need a little bit of accountability. I might need a little bit of direction or just a course to go down and try not to do everything myself. Some people do great. Some people decide that they need a little bit of help. And I think that's why in February, that is my highest client month. So I decided to offer a 25% discount on all the things on my website. So that's nutrition coaching, fitness coaching, bundles, all the fitness programs, things like that. Everything is 25% off. But you have to use the code LadySavageGift because it was just my gift to you guys as we're rolling through into the next month, and it goes through the month of February.
Boom.
Great sales pitch.
Yeah. Rock and rolling. What brand of protein powder do you recommend for keto? I recommend one that it's okay. I don't honestly recommend any protein powders on keto because you don't really need protein powders on keto if you're getting quality nutrients in from the animal-based sources, et cetera, et cetera. However, there may be times when from a convenience standpoint or whatever, you need a little bit of protein in a protein powder that makes hitting your macros easy. So in that case, I would opt for one that is sweetened with stevia or monk fruit and doesn't have any crazy fillers. And I try to always get a whey protein concentrate because it has less processing. And I'll typically pair that with a fat source like a fatty yogurt so that it doesn't have as much of a response to my blood glucose level. So I'll just mix a scoop of that protein with a serving of Colina coconut yogurt or something.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Robert has me eating 170 grams of protein right now. I'm I'm pretty amazed that I can eat that much protein.
Yeah, your fat grams are high too, though, which is crazy. Like her fat gram, I'm pretty sure they're 1-to-1. I don't have her spreadsheet in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it's 170 grams, and she weighs 102 pounds.
Yeah, that's crazy. When you certify new coaches, are they certified only in keto coaching or well-versed in macro percentages? Go ahead, Yana.
So anybody that's ever coached under any of our brands has been coached by me. That way I've worked with them one-on-one personally for them as a client, me as the coach, and then I'm like talking with them as we go through their entire prep or whatever, their transformation, so they have complete understanding of why we're doing every manipulation we're doing. Any questions they have, they're literally asking me real time because they're going through it themselves. And then I can kind of point them in the right direction. So anybody that's ever coached for us has been a client of mine.
Also, anyone who's ever coached under us is under Deeper State Keto, which is a keto company. So we only promote and really only use the Deeper State Keto protocol as coaches. So you're not going to get carb macros from any of our coaches, including ourselves.
Yeah.
If
one of our coaches recommends 50 grams carbohydrates, 100 grams carbohydrates, their account's been hacked.
Are the protein powders in your bricks commercially sold or all as Are protein powders in your bricks commercially sold or all as ingredients?
It's ingredients for the bricks. So we have wholesale suppliers, and then I go through them and I vet all the proteins. I vet all of our suppliers. Like our ingredients are the best ingredients you can get, period. No questions asked.
200
grams of fat.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. All right, what else we got? Any other questions, or do we have a list of questions that we can still pull from, or no?
I think we just have one more question
for next week.
Let's see. Here we go.
What's for dinner tonight?
We're having chicken wraps.
What are we wrapping it with? Lettuce?
Lettuce.
Chicken wraps. What we got?
I'm trying to find it. I don't know. I had it earlier.
You're killing me, Smalls.
At least I have a list.
Drinking some turmeric herbal tea while enjoying the live stream. You guys are the best. Turmeric herbal tea. We haven't had tea in a while.
No, my mom was just talking about trying to get in some turmeric in her diet.
What non-stem pre-workout would you recommend? I'll show you what I'm using right now. Hold on.
He'll show you what he's using. I'm going to be rude and look at my phone to try to figure out what the topics I have are. I can't find them for the life of me. Where are they? I lost them.
So this is what I've been using lately. It's Axe and Sledge brand for the YouTube and Facebook. Hydraulic is the name of it. And it's a non-stem. There is, let's see here. There's basic stuff. L-citrulline, 2,500 milligrams per scoop. Glycerol powder, beta-alanine, 1,200 milligrams of that. Taurine. Tyrosine. I mean, just a lot of the amino acids and stuff, but there's no caffeine. And the other ingredients are citric acid, silicone dioxide, natural flavors, sucralose, beetroot powder for color. So not a huge fan of sucralose, but again, I only do one scoop of this a day, so not a whole lot there. But there is another pre-workout, and I forget the name of it, but I'm gonna try that next.
Maybe you should package your protein in the bricks under your brand.
We may do a supplement line at some point.
The only thing we have left is mindset and consistency. Do you guys have other questions for following week topics? If you do, just type in following week topics and then ask your question. If you have a question now, then just go ahead and ask the question.
Do you have an opinion on curcumin? I don't really ever use it. A lot of people use it for its anti-inflammatory properties, but I don't really ever feel like I have any inflammation, so I don't really ever specifically go out of my way to supplement with it. What's up, Sarah? How are you? Hope you're doing amazing and life is good.
I need to find one that is stevia with stevia or monk fruit.
What was that one that I was using last? I'm almost out of this, and the next one I order, I'll put it in my newsletter or something. That way you know what it is. But it looks really good from an ingredient standpoint, and it is sweetened with stevia. I just totally forgot the brand name.
Must be a good pre-workout since it has you mopping gym floor and dancing simultaneously.
Yeah, I can totally get down with some Rod Stewart while I'm cleaning.
That's funny.
Sending some video love. Thank you so much, Sarah. All right, y'all. We're gonna call it a day.
Do we have any topics? I guess not. I guess we'll do mindset
one.
and consistency.
Yeah,
next
we'll do
week.
mindset and consistency next week, and then we'll need some topic recommendations. So we love y'all, and we will talk to y'all soon. Ta-ta for now. Toodaloo, adios, and glad to catch y'all live. What's up, Wesley? How you doing, man? Hopefully the woodworking is going spectacularly well. Hasta la vista, baby.
See you guys.